effect. All right, are we ready? All right. So this is the regular meeting of the Woodbridge Conservation Commission, July 18th, 2019. And starting off slightly different this time, we're welcoming new members. So welcome, Sharon. I usually like when there's new members, and Julie Parr is also a new member, but she's not here tonight. I usually like to go around and introduce all of ourselves to new members, but I don't want to do it twice. Briefly, and just to give a little background of who our role and responsibilities and what we've been doing up until this point. But I want to get Julie up to speed too, so I thought maybe if we
wait till next time.
All next time.
Okay.
Is that fair?
That's fine.
I don't want to make you feel bad.
No,
like you're missing something on your first meeting.
I'm not.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is to vote for officers. We have 3 officers: chairman, vice chairman, and secretary. So I will start with chairman. I will also put forward that I'm willing to remain chairman.
I move. We have you remain as chairman.
I second.
Is there any discussion? Do I have any competition in the running?
I believe we're all in favor.
Yeah.
All right. All in favor of myself
Aye.
as chairman? I'll even vote for myself. Okay. We need a vice chairman whose role is me if I'm not here, essentially. And I'm going to nominate Leland for the role.
I'd like to second it.
Accept. If so, vote.
Any comment, Leland, or do you have any
No, that's
speech
fine.
to give?
Just as long as what you said is true, that it's meaningless.
It's very rare that I have to
you
call on
have just have to
fill
promise you don't retire.
in. It's very rare that I'm not here, so.
Right.
All right. No further discussion. All in favor of Leland as vice chair? You can abstain, or did you vote for yourself?
I abstained.
Okay. And the last seat is for, last officer is for secretary. Previously, Lauren was filling that role. We do have 2 people that are not here if we want to nominate one of them, but if there's someone here that would like to fill in as secretary. Now, just as a point of context, typically Betsy is here most often and taking minutes for us. So this is more of a fill in when Betsy has other things in life that come up that keep her occupied on a Thursday evening. Does anyone feel compelled to step up to be a secretary?
Not especially.
Everybody's looking at the floor.
Crickets.
I know.
Crickets. Well, does anybody know Julie? Do you think she would be a good
I don't know Julie.
crickets?
Crickets. So it's just taking notes if you're not here.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just the minutes.
I'll do that.
Yay.
Pressure. Thank you.
A second.
All right. Thank you, Sharon. All in favor of Sharon
Sharon.
as secretary?
Aye.
Okay. Phew. The hard stuff's done. Third item on the agenda tonight is public comments. Crickets. The next item on the agenda tonight is to
Makes
review
being secretary easy.
to review and approve minutes of our June regular meeting, and I had circulated those around. I did have some corrections as I reread them the second time around, and I think it was just spelling errors on my name and the word meeting. Yep. So I have a spelling correction on my name up near the top. There's one L, and later on the paragraph towards the bottom, there's only one R. That needs to get doubled. And in the last one, where it says the meeting adjourned, it needs an extra E.
Is a meeting adjourned?
The meeting adjourned.
Oh, and Torrance is with an A.
Oh, okay, thank you.
All names.
Spell it, yeah, typo.
I loved it. Jason, you're just all the R's and L's.
What's funny is that it's Microsoft Word. It highlighted those words with red underlines, so my eye got focused on it, and I'm like,
You know, even your name is spelled wrong?
It knows my name. Yeah.
We've got, don't you have 2 R's?
2 R's and 2 L's. Yep.
There's only 1 R.
I know.
Okay. Oh, you said that already.
That's one of them.
Got it.
And the other one is up at the top.
Okay.
As long as we're doing it, the last line is meeting adjourned.
We did.
Yep.
They-
Yeah, we
Did
got
you get
that one.
Oh, good.
Oh, and there's an extra apostrophe on chairman's report. Unless we want to put quotes around S in chairman's. It's an artistic thing. All right. Any other comments on the minutes? I'll make a motion to approve with those corrections.
Second.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions or
I wasn't there. So I abstained.
you abstained? Okay. All right. Next on the agenda. Review commission's purpose and duties. And this is something I like to go through regularly, once a year, just to get everybody back on board so we all know why we're here, what we're responsible for, what we're doing. And we'll do it again next time when Julie's here, but just we'll go through it briefly here. I circulated this around to everybody. I'm not going to read it ad nauseum, but some of the highlights is that we need to we may inventory natural resources. We're working on that in our open space plan. We talk about greenways, that is included in the open space plan. We can make recommendations with regard to land use changes, as well as acquisitions. And we keep minutes. A more important point happened last year is that, or was it earlier this year? We became appointed to care for farmland preservation in a certain capacity. And these are somewhat new items on our content to capture and review, and I circulated that to everybody as well. So hopefully you had a chance to read it. Because the
What you
town,
sent out today.
yeah, no, Tuesday, I think I sent this around. But this came about when the town was going to be applying for grants. It needed a body that would be responsible for farmland preservation and anything related to agriculture. So the Conservation Commission is filling that at this point. All right. Any comments or questions? Cool. Yeah.
I have one. It's also involved in acquisition of land, correct?
Yes, we can recommend the acquisition. We
Okay.
don't actually act as the
Acquirer. Okay.
acquirer because it's the town. Where
And
Sort
we
of
don't
a-
get involved in grants either, do we? We just recommend.
we recommend, and then I've assisted with the writing of the grants. So we can take part in writing of the grant, but ultimately it's submitted by the town. And during my term here, it's typically that, in this case, Betsy has been the one that's been submitting the grants.
Yeah, going
So-
forward, it would probably be Sheila, because at that time we didn't have someone doing grants.
Right.
When was the last time we actually acquired a property based on our recommendation?
The last time the town
Yeah.
acquired a parcel? It's not while I was chair, so
And it's before my time, I've been here for
I want to say Racebrook Tract maybe was the last large acquisition. That was in 2006-07, I
Is that
think.
Elderslie? No.
No, on the border of
Oh.
Orange.
Oh,
The Racebrook Tract covers
Right.
Orange and into
Yeah.
Woodbridge, aside from the country club. But that was before me as well. But that, those are the two big ones that stand out right now.
Thank you.
And certainly we've tried to go after, we know we've tried to
Yes.
acquire a couple parcels, but the sellers are not interested. Or, so, does that answer your question? Okay. Anything else? No?
Should we recommend things to the zoning people such as areas of back from rivers and lot sizes and things like that, as far as setbacks and things like that. Is that part of our?
It is, yep.
I know, I believe it's only 25 feet from a river now, so that could be a big drainage problem, you know,
Yeah,
with some of these businesses going in. Also, there's some drainage issues that could be addressed, you know, different areas when they build parking lots and things like that. You know, best practices is what I'm talking about, so.
and that's definitely recommendations that would come from this body to the town when it comes to zoning.
We should look at that. a
And
little
actually,
closer.
the other thing is, we talked about having a few more joint-type meetings, which I think would be good, because in one example is this recent rooster regulation, banning roosters in Woodbridge, and
I have not
that
heard of
since
this.
farming
I
is-
haven't heard of this either.
It was as of July 1. So, but the zoning, it was actually sort of, I guess, a personal thing, but as we're responsible for the farming stuff,
Yeah,
you would think they would, reach out to us for
Yeah.
our opinion on
Yeah.
something like that.
Are there any qualifications to that? So it says like if Marsaro Farm wanted a rooster,
No roosters.
just no
Period.
roosters
If-
anywhere?
If you have them already, so I have like 6 roosters, so, but if you have them already, they're
Glad I'm not your
grandfathered
neighbor.
in. And as farmers know, is that it's important to have a rooster. I mean, they will die protecting their chickens,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's something that I think if we had a little more communication in between,
yeah,
those things
Yeah.
might happen.
That's great.
yeah. And something we do try to encourage is joint meetings. We often have an ex officio go to CUPOP to help bridge that knowledge gap between them.
Oh, who is
And-
our CUPOP? Did we lose our?
We lost our
Lauren.
liaison.
Yeah.
Lauren was our liaison to CUPOP. So we don't need to fill that vacancy right now unless someone's willing to go to another meeting.
Frank.
Frank? What? But we also want to encourage joint meetings, particularly with rec as well, especially as we talk about activities such as the use of the trails in town.
Do we have any with the land trusts, or they have a lot of trails in town?
We'll get to it a little bit later, but there has been a trail meeting jointly with
Okay.
Parks Association and the Land Trust. So we're doing a little bit on the side, but I think having the bodies themselves, so the Conservation Commission meeting with the Rec Commission together to even just review what everybody's working on. It's a little bit better to come together as human beings instead of just handing minutes around. It becomes a bit more productive. But yeah, getting back to the original comment, I think this commission should be more active in making recommendations to the town when it comes to ordinances.
Yeah.
So whether it's setbacks or roosters.
Yeah.
Buffers.
And it would be good if we-
Things like that. Go
Yeah,
ahead, I'm sorry.
just to reach out so that the other chairs know that please at least ask.
Consider
our
us,
opinion.
yeah. All right. Next up on the agenda is the 2019 Open Space Plan draft. And everybody has got their work assignments.
Will you review those, Chairman?
We have lost a couple members that had been doing some work. Lauren did finish her work on the grants portion and sent that over to me. I will be incorporating that in. Julie had been working on the ordinance section, and she said that she was going to continue working on it, although I know her since she's my neighbor, she's wrapped up in all kinds of other things at the moment, so I think her time might be stretched thin. So I know Sharon had worked with the town through planning and zoning and whatnot, so you might be a good resource for us to more carefully flesh out that part of the open space plan.
So can you say a little more?
So it's mostly just highlighting in the open space plan parts of the current zoning or ordinances that affect open space. You know, we don't necessarily need to know building codes or how far a building has to be from its garage or septic, but when it comes, like as Frank pointed out, setbacks, and it doesn't need to be verbiage lifted straight out of the ordinances, but just a reference to that there's an ordinance related to this in that is pertinent to open
So
space.
can I start to look into it and not take on the responsibility yet in
Sure.
terms of thinking about it?
Yep.
Okay. I'll talk to some people and see. I'll talk to you more about what
Yeah.
you mean exactly, okay?
Yeah. But I thought since you're, got a little bit that in your
Mhm.
background coming from wetlands.
Okay, well,
Cool.
I'll work on it.
Thank you. I think we're all still working a bit on our various pockets of homework. I know I still am in terms of the natural resource inventory. And Leland, you had done some,
I think I put in all
the,
I sent you a
Yep.
bunch of things. I think I've fulfilled my homework duty, my
Okay.
homework assignment.
very good. All right. Then I think at the next meeting, I will have incorporated everything together, and we'll have a draft for us to consider as a potential 2019 draft. And just so you know, I like to review the open space plan annually, and if there's something substantive to change in it, go through the whole process. But if we look through it and it looks on task and there's nothing really to change, then we'll just carry forward with. The last time it had been updated was in 2017.
Okay, so pretty recent.
Yeah. And that we had looked it through, and there were a few areas that looked as though they needed some more detail, and that's why we're going through the draft process now.
Okay?
All right. Any other thoughts on the open space plan
No, I'm
at this
gonna
point?
figure everything out and then I'll
Okay,
give you an update next week,
All right.
next month, whenever it is we're meeting again.
right. On our summer vacation, we'll all be diligently working on our section of the open space plan, right?
Okay.
Of course. Sitting on the beach, it's the first thing in mind. Open space plan. All right, next on the agenda.
Do we still have $80,000
Not 80, but
in the kitty?
it's
Close to.
over 60, under 80, as far as I know. I haven't checked in with Tony as to what the open space fund stands at right now, but. All right. Next on the agenda is discussion of trails and maintenance, and this is mostly me just summarizing the current progress, and Betsy certainly fill in any gaps for me. So I representing conservation, and Chuck Pine representing land trust, and Nate Case and
Tim Austin.
Tim Austin representing Parks Association. Have been meeting almost monthly for the last 3 or 4 months to talk about these 3 organizations and how we approach trails and maintenance, because
Right.
we all have different areas of responsibility in the town. And this trail maintenance guide that we're putting together lays it all out of who's responsible for what, and just some agreed upon standards across the board. So we all agree that the trails should be checked in the first quarter of the year for these things, and the second quarter of the year for these things. And standardizing on colors of blazes, for example, and how often the blazes should be checked up on, and making sure the standard, if you've got a turn coming up, that there's 2 blazes and they're staggered. So sort of coming together to make that commonality among all the trails. So you're not going down a blue trail and suddenly you're on a purple trail, and you wonder, is your eyes going funny? Did they just run out of blue paint and they went to purple? Or is it a completely different trail? And a lot of our trail networks lead into one another. So you'll go from a town-owned parcel onto a land trust-owned parcel, or from Parks Association to town, and you want to make sure that there's continuity of color and maintenance and signage too. So I'm expecting that we will have a draft of this document in September to look at and review. And this will be an ongoing process. Even once that document is put together, we've all agreed that these 3 groups should meet at least annually to review the document and make sure we've all got the same ideas and nothing has really changed.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Does that cover?
And so that's the Recreation Commission, the Conservation Commission, and the,
No, Land Trust?
Land Trust?
Land Trust?
yeah,
Oh, Parks, the Parks Association.
Parks Association.
For the Alice Newton Street Park.
Yeah.
And conservation. Rec hasn't joined us yet, although I think, Betsy, you kind of alluded to the fact that we should probably involve Rec a little bit on talks of trails, mostly for activity.
Yeah, I'm working with someone from Rec to plan a family hike in October as part of Fallapalooza. And on the same day, there's going to be a bike ride mostly on the trails, but somewhat off the trails, doing a whole loop around the town, it'll be about 30 miles. And there might be a 5K trail run in the morning. And this will all happen on Saturday, October 20th. And it'll all start and end right around here near Alice Newton in the center of town. And I'm also working with the church. They're going to be having their arts and music festival that weekend. So while the trail activities are happening, or sort of in between the trail activities, there's going to be crafts, music, arts, food. So it should be a really nice joint event the first half of the day. The idea is to really celebrate the trails that we have in town and try to encourage people who might not use them frequently to get out on the trails, or at least be aware that we have this resource in town.
That sounds good.
So I've been working with someone from Recreation on that, and the Recreation Commission is probably going to sign on as a co-sponsor, and wanted to throw it out to you all if that's something that you guys would be interested in, since you're so involved
Absolutely.
in the trails.
Right.
Oh,
And
yeah.
what does that involve, being co-sponsor?
Saying you're a co-sponsor. Coming to the event.
I will make a motion that we become a co-sponsor for the event.
Second.
Okay.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
And what's the event is called, Fallapalooza?
So Fallapalooza is a month-long series of events that happens in October. Lots of organizations already had events during the month, and we're helping to market them. And then other organizations are doing events in October to be part of Fallapalooza. So this is something that we've created to kind of take advantage of the extra marketing and excitement going on in October. But I think our tentative name for it is the Trails and Art event. It's not very exciting yet.
I'm not gonna write that down.
I like it though, because you know, you get nature, artwork, and.
Well, and a lot of, as we've been talking with the people who do these kind of things, like the bike club that's doing the bike event, a lot of families will come and wait around while mom or dad is out on the bike ride.
Mhm.
And if there's two, a parent and a couple of kids sitting around, instead of having them just, I don't know, twiddle their thumbs or play with sticks, if we had an event here, there would be something for them to do, and it might bring out more people to be in the bike event or the run, and vice versa. Our people participating on the trails events will help the arts and music event have better attendance, so kind of building off each other.
So you said, I think Saturday's the 19th. Is that what you meant, or is it Sunday the 20th?
It's Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah. But the church is also doing things on Sunday, but the trails
Right.
event would be Saturday.
Sounds good.
All right.
Jason, can I ask where we're drawing our volunteers from for maintenance on the trails?
That is an excellent question. I do not have a list of volunteers. The Land Trust does. Yeah. And this is something that we've been talking about, is being aware that you don't set out this trail maintenance guide with an aspirational set of objectives that you just can't meet because you don't have the bodies to actually accomplish it. The Land Trust has a collection of volunteers. The Parks Association has a collection of volunteers. The town might leverage those pools of volunteers, but also has the maintenance staff, but they've got their other jobs.
Yeah.
Their job
Right,
is
they're not responsible for the trails, but I do have a list of more than 100 people who've taken the trail survey, and many of them have said they'd be interested in doing work on the trails. So we've got
Yeah.
several pools of volunteers. There's probably a lot of overlap,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but there are definitely pools of volunteers that we can pull from.
We did, we do need them because there was some damage from the storm, the tornado we had. And,
Yeah.
There's some, I mean, the scouts are good, they help a lot, but, we do have some volunteers other than the Land Trust, but,
And the hope is that this guide kind of solidifies what we're going to be doing, and consistently, rather than just sort of, oh, I happen to notice a tree down. Oh yeah, we'll get to it. And then next year, someone's like, "Did you ever take care of that tree?" No. Oh, yeah. So.
I have a question too, especially on the Busman property, which I've hiked more of. There's a lot of invasives, bayberry. Is there anything we're thinking of doing in terms? I mean, there's a lot, so it would be a huge undertaking. But-
We had talked about putting something about invasives in the maintenance.
Which property is that?
The Busman off Beecher Road.
Oh, okay. I know that one.
Was it called the Busman property?
I think it was called the Busman property, I don't know what it's called now.
Is it
It's
the,
off Woodside, it's Woodside,
is it the trail that kind of winds between houses
Yeah.
going back that way?
yeah,
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, that one is very overgrown too.
yeah.
Yeah. As for as invasives, yeah, I think we need to do what we can, although it's tough to go out to the forest and go for an eradication project of,
That might be a thought of getting a bunch of volunteers and taking it doing an acre sometime and doing another acre another time. Just
Well, that's also something that Coupa has been talking about. I don't think they have a plan of attack yet, but it is something they're very concerned about. So if there's further joint meeting, I mean, that would be a really pertinent topic to discuss.
okay. Yeah. And I've helped out on West Ridge with their trail maintenance, and I've been learning a bit from how they manage it. And he does go through and rips out the burning bush wherever he can, and all the other invasives. So that's one of the goals of his trail maintenance on West Rock, is pull out the invasives wherever you can. He'll never win, but he can at least kind of try to keep them
Yeah.
down.
A lot of knotweed too along the rivers.
Oh, the knotweed, yes. Fills in
So
fast.
there's a lot of maintenance to be done.
That's a pretty big effort all the way up and down
Yeah, it really is.
New England.
Okay.
The knotweed clan.
Any other thoughts or comments on trails and trail maintenance? All right, the last item on the agenda is the chairman's report. And I only have one item for us that has come up recently. And it came from Leland, because Leland's been doing some work over on the Darling property, and specifically the entire parcel, the trails, the fields that are open down there, the farming that happens in that area, the Boy Scout camp. So you want to explain a little bit about the work that you've been doing?
So I've been working for about 6 months trying to, with the blessing of the Beth and our selectmen, to basically form a sustainable program for the 157 acres, with the idea that it's $1 million asset that's sitting there and really could use, and the idea is to make it a much more of a destination spot, sort of like Massaro, but maybe even more than Massaro, because they have the museum and they have a lot of other things that are there. So, some of the entities that are involved, the Amity Woodbridge Historical Society, Boy Scouts, we're trying to get the Girl Scouts involved there too, us, the Conservation Commission, the Land Trust, local farmers, the CSA, Yale School of Forestry has given us a proposal for forest management. Amity High School, Beecher Road School, regional schools, SCROG, Art Rex, West River Water Coalition, Woodbridge, Connecticut Garden Club, Regional Water Authority, and the Recreation Commission. So the whole idea is to try and get a vision and a plan together to sort of, whether it's maximizing the farm fields, through grants and stuff, widening them, getting them used more, supporting the CSA, where, if you drive by, Darling House now, you see people working down the fields. It's just, so the whole idea is, and the Boy Scouts, I met with them for the first time. I think nobody's reached out for them in ages, and they're dying to have more Eagle Scout programs, and that can be trail upkeep. So I'm trying to focus on one 157-acre plot and so I would love to be able to, at some point, when I have a better draft, bring that to you guys for input and what some thoughts.
I like the idea to have
That's a
another,
great idea.
It does.
as a sort of another destination, like you called out Massaro, and that is a destination in town, and the Darling House, open as a museum, with the trails right there, is amazing, and the West River running right through it.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of educational
Well, and the
opportunities.
potential for the Yellow Barns. I mean, you've seen what they've done up at in Hartford. And, so I don't know. I'm very excited about it.
What have they done in Hartford?
This is the, I'm going to forget the name. It's the, they converted the old, what is the name? Famous Connecticut politician. Had a house in Hartford and had a farm just outside of it, and they turned it into basically recreation and environmental museum. They got a lot of funds for it. It was kind of, I mean, I don't know what we would do, but to find some kind of use for it. That would be another thing that I want to come have your guys' input, see what you thought we might have.
I think it's great that you're working with other groups too. I think that collaborative piece is really important to get things done. That's good.
In specific on the trails, I was just bringing up our trail maintenance guide. It is the town's responsibility to maintain all of those trails in that area. It's not the land trust that manages those trails. So just kind of wrapping it back into conservation in some direct way. Since we're often talking about the trails and management, I think that's one aspect that conservation can help with in terms of bringing that area up. And you've walked those trails over there by the quarry and the kiln.
Oh, yeah.
So you
That no one knew were there.
I know. I mean, I think that whole stretch,
Yeah.
and it would be great to do something with that kiln
Yes.
at the corner of Dillon Road. It's really cool, and it's really falling
Yeah.
apart. If there was some way to stabilize it.
In that cave.
Yeah. So there's a lot of good for that part of the town that I think might be beneficial if we could draw some energy and put it over there. So, anyway, I wanted to bring that to everybody's
Yeah, I
attention.
mean, people hike looking for historic structures throughout the state, so if we want, if we have any interest in drawing people into that, I don't know if we do or not.
Yeah. So this could turn into something big. Who knows? But
So let us know the developments as you get more specifics on it, exactly what you're,
Sure.
you decide. It sounds like a great place to bring it up.
yeah. All right. I don't have anything else on my chairman's report for this month. So I will.
I have a couple of things about acquisition. I understand the Woodbridge Land Trust is going after the Nugent property now. I don't know where they are in the process exactly. I think they made a bid for it. And it's possible that Mr. Nugent might be more willing to sell at this time for whatever reason, I don't know, but they are going out, now they're waiting for a counter offer from Mr. Nugent, so we'll stay tuned for that one. Also, the West River, the West Rock Ridge State Advisory Council is recommending that they buy that parcel of land. I don't know if you know exactly where it is, but it's on Brooks, 66 Brooks Road in Bethany. It's right along the ridge, and there's some acreage there for sale between the water company property and the West Rock Ridge there. The water
Yes.
company owns a lot of property there.
Yep.
So the advisory council is recommending that the state purchase that. Whether it's going to happen or not, I don't know, but nevertheless, that's another acquisition that might be made.
Yeah.
So those are two.
And in the vein of acquisition, I did hear through the grapevine, it sounded as though the deal with the Baldwin property is actually happening. To be, development rights are going to be acquired, so it's going to be preserved.
And I think
That's
that
fine.
the deal on the
It did go
Ansonia
through.
side did go
Wow.
through, right?
Well, Betsy's confirming that actually
Yeah.
the paperwork has been
Wow,
done. So
that's exciting.
nice work on the
We
land
weren't
trust. I know
expecting
Jim.
that.
I know Jim Urbano was a strong advocate for that. So kudos to him for
Right.
making that actually happen.
That's great.
Good job. I didn't have anything to do with it. I can't
Yeah.
take any credit for that.
No, the land trust worked very hard for many years, and I'm glad they were able to come up with some agreement. So maybe they'll have better luck with Nugent
I
than
hope
the
so.
town has.
Yeah,
So
I understand he might be more inclined to sell for whatever reason, but I don't know exactly what it is. But
Where's
let's hope
Nugent?
so, because if they acquire that, it'd be great for
yeah,
us.
so it's on the Litchfield Turnpike, between the Litchfield Turnpike and West Rock. So if you're at the Darling House, come back towards Knoll's Pond in the downtown area. There's a parcel in there, it's 28 acres, I think, roughly.
It's right, the board is right on our Bishop Estate Trails, where the
And-
Bishop Estate Trails end, there's
Right, the
there's a
UDOT
Nugent property.
signs that say private property,
Right.
if you do that loop.
Right.
You know, we've been trying to make a deal, and prior Conservation Commission chairs and commissions have tried also with Nugent to purchase this, because having that would allow an extension of the trails and come closer to almost doing a whole trail circuit going. And you could start here at Town Hall, and you could go up through the northern part of the town, over Water Authority, down the edge of West Rock, end up in the Bradley Road area, and hook back up to the Indian Trail area behind Stop and Shop.
And
It's one
hook-
big loop.
Hook to the West River all the way down
Right.
to.
Yeah.
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 That's
New
right.
Haven.
Hook up to the
Sounds
West River
exciting.
Greenway eventually
Yeah.
as that gets built out, so,
So,
yeah.
Very
It's
good.
a strategic part.
very good. All right. If there's nothing else, I'm going to make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Welcome.
10, thank you.